All my life, my mother made it clear that my brother was the golden child and I was the mistake she wished she'd never made. And now, after her death, I finally understand why she hated me so much. I was 6 when I first understood that something was wrong with me. Not in the way kids sometimes think they're bad because they broke a lamp or spilled juice on the carpet. No, this was deeper. It was the way my mother looked at me when I walked into a room. Like I was interrupting something important. Like I was a noise she couldn't turn off. My older brother, Caleb, was 2 years ahead of me, and from the moment I could form memories, he was everything she wanted. Smart, polite, athletic. He had this quiet charm that made adults smile and teachers praise him. I didn't have that. I was clumsy, loud, always asking questions. I didn't know how to be what she wanted, and she never taught me. She just punished me for not knowing. Our house in Ohio was small, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. My parents slept in one room, Caleb had his own, and I shared mine with the laundry machines. I remember lying in bed at night listening to the dryer spin, wondering why Caleb got the room with the window and the desk. I asked once, and she said, because he deserves it. That was her answer to everything. Caleb deserved things. I didn't. When I brought home a drawing from school, she barely looked at it. When Caleb brought home a spelling test with an A, she taped it to the fridge. I started hiding my schoolwork. I stopped trying. She wasn't violent, not in the way people think of abuse. She didn't hit me. But she had this way of making me feel like I was taking up space that wasn't mine. If I laughed too loud, she'd flinch. If I cried, she'd sigh and say, God, you're so dramatic. Caleb could cry. When he broke his arm falling off his bike, she held him all night. I broke my wrist in gym class and she told me to stop whining. I was 10. My dad was quiet. He worked long hours at the plant and came home tired. I don't think he ever saw what was happening. Or maybe he did and didn't know what to do about it. He'd pat my head sometimes, say, hang in there, champ, and go back to watching TV. He wasn't cruel, just absent. My mother was the one who shaped the air in our house. And that air was thick with disappointment whenever I was around. I started noticing how she talked about me to other people. At church, she'd introduce Caleb with pride. This is my oldest, Caleb. He's in the gifted program. Then she'd gesture toward me like I was a stray dog she'd picked up. And this is Ryan. He's trying. I hated going out with her. I hated being seen next to him. People would smile at Caleb and then glance at me like they were trying to figure out what went wrong. By the time I was 13, I'd stop talking to her unless I had to. I'd eat dinner in silence, do my homework in the basement, avoid eye contact. She didn't seem to mind. She and Caleb had their own rhythm. They'd talk about his soccer games, his friends, his future. She'd ask him what colleges he was thinking about when he was 15. She never asked me. I don't think she ever expected me to go anywhere. I started stealing things. Nothing big. Just little things from the grocery store or from Caleb's room. A watch, a pair of headphones. I didn't even want them. I just wanted to feel like I could take something back. She found out once and made me return everything. She didn't yell. She just looked at me and said, you're lucky you're not in jail already. I was 14. Caleb never noticed. Or if he did, he never said anything. He wasn't cruel to me. He was just distant. Like he'd learned from her that I wasn't worth the effort. We didn't fight. We didn't talk. We just existed in the same house, orbiting around her attention, which was always tilted in his favor. I remember one Christmas when I was 16. She bought Caleb a new laptop and gave me a pair of socks. I didn't say anything. I just nodded and said thank you. Later that night, I overheard her talking to my dad in the kitchen. She said, I don't know what to do with Ryan. He's just not like Caleb. My dad didn't respond. I don't think he ever did. I started spending more time outside. Walking around town, sitting in the park, just being anywhere but home. I got a job at a gas station when I was 17 and worked every shift I could. I saved up enough to buy a used car and started sleeping in it some nights. She didn't ask where I was. She didn't care. When I graduated high school, she didn't come to the ceremony. Caleb did. He shook my hand and said, congrats, man. That was the longest conversation we'd had in years. I moved out the next week. Got a place with 2 roommates in Cincinnati. Worked construction, then warehouse jobs. Nothing special. I didn't go to college. I didn't have a plan. I just wanted to be away from her. I didn't call. She didn't call. Caleb kept in touch, I think. I saw pictures of them on Facebook sometimes. Smiling. Happy. Like I'd never existed. Then she got sick. Cancer. Stage 4. Caleb called me and said I should come home. I didn't want to. I hadn't seen her in almost 10 years. But something in his voice made me go. She was in a hospital bed in the living room, thin and pale, barely able to speak. She looked at me like she was seeing a ghost. I sat with her for a few hours. She didn't say much. Just stared at the ceiling and asked for water. Caleb was there the whole time, holding her hand. She died 2 days later. Caleb handled everything. The funeral, the paperwork, the house. I stayed in a motel and didn't talk to anyone. After the service, he gave me a box. Said it was mine. I didn't open it until I got back to Cincinnati. Inside were some old photos, a few letters, and a journal. Her journal. I almost threw it away. But something made me read it. And that's when everything changed. The journal started in 1985, the year before I was born. The handwriting was neat, careful, like she was trying to make sense of something too big to say out loud. The first few entries were about Caleb. How excited she was to be a mother. How perfect he was. How she felt like she'd finally done something right. I read those pages with a kind of numbness. I already knew she loved him. That wasn't new. Then came the entries from 1986. The tone changed. She wrote about being tired, overwhelmed, unsure if she could handle another child. She mentioned arguments with my father. Money problems. Stress. And then, one entry in late August. I'm pregnant again. I don't know how this happened. I feel like I'm drowning. I stopped reading for a while after that. Just stared at the wall of my apartment, the journal open on the table. I felt sick. Like I'd just confirmed something I'd always suspected but never wanted to believe. I was the accident. The mistake. The thing that happened when she was already stretched too thin. I picked the journal back up and kept reading. She wrote about the pregnancy like it was a punishment. She didn't want to tell anyone. She didn't want to go through it again. She hoped it was a girl, maybe that would make it easier. Then I was born. And she wrote, "It's a boy. I feel nothing." That line stayed with me. I feel nothing. Not joy, not love, not even anger. Just emptiness. She described holding me in the hospital and feeling like she was watching someone else's life. She said I cried too much, slept too little, and that every sound I made grated on her nerves. She wrote, "I look at him and I feel like I'm being erased." There were entries about my early years. How I clung to her. How I followed her around the house. How I asked for hugs and she gave them out of obligation. She wrote, "He needs so much. I don't have it to give." She talked about Caleb like he was her anchor. Her reason. Her light. And me? I was the shadow. The weight. The reminder of everything she didn't want to be. I kept reading. Through the years. Through the birthdays she forgot, the school plays she skipped, the punishments she handed out without explanation. She wrote about how she tried to love me. How she told herself to try harder. But it never worked. She said, "He looks at me like he's waiting for something. I don't know what it is. I don't have it." There was one entry when I was 12. She'd found a drawing I made of our family. She wasn't in it. Just me, Caleb, and Dad. She wrote, "I think he knows. I think he's starting to understand." That was the year I stopped talking to her. The year I started disappearing into myself. She noticed. She wrote, "He's pulling away. I should feel something. I don't." I read the journal in one sitting. Every page. Every word. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, absorbing it like a sponge. It was the confirmation of a lifetime of silence. The proof that I hadn't imagined it. That I hadn't exaggerated. She really hadn't loved me. Not once. Not ever. But there was something else in those pages. Something I didn't expect. Regret. Not the kind that asks for forgiveness. Not the kind that changes anything. But the kind that sits heavy in the chest. She wrote, "I wish I had been different. I wish I had been stronger. He deserved better than what I gave him." That line broke something in me. Because for the first time, she acknowledged it. She saw me. Not as a mistake, but as a person she failed. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to carry it. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't erase the years of silence, the birthdays spent alone, the feeling of being invisible in my own home. But it's something. A crack in the wall she built between us. A glimpse of the woman behind the coldness. I called Caleb a few days later. Asked him if he knew. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I always wondered. She treated you so differently. I didn't understand it." I asked him why he never said anything. He said, "I didn't know how. I thought maybe you were just difficult." That word hit me like a slap. Difficult. That's how she saw me. That's how he saw me. That's how I learned to see myself. I told him about the journal. He asked if he could read it. I said no. It wasn't for him. It wasn't for anyone else. It was mine. My proof. My story. My pain. He didn't argue. Just said, "I'm sorry, Ryan. I really am." I believed him. But it didn't change anything. I've spent most of my life trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Why I couldn't be like Caleb. Why I couldn't make her smile. Now I know it wasn't about me. It was about her. Her limits. Her fears. Her inability to love what she didn't choose. I was the reminder of a life she didn't want. And she punished me for it every day. She's gone now. And I'm left with the pieces. The journal. The memories. The silence. I don't hate her. I don't love her. I just exist in the space she left behind. Trying to build something out of the wreckage. Trying to be more than the mistake she thought I was. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.